Covering Flint, Saginaw, and Bay City, this is ABC12 News at 6.
Flint's drinking water continues to test well below the federal action level for lead and copper. It's data that we first brought you in ABC12 News at 6 yesterday.
Now the state's top water expert is breaking down the numbers. So, Ann, this is a milestone for the city?
Yes, because the water also tested below Michigan's new lead and copper rule, considered one of the toughest in the country. But the struggle of trust remains.
This is just validation that the water chemistry and the things that we're doing with the water in Flint is extremely protective, and the same across the state.
Eric Oswald took on the role of directing the Drinking Water and Environmental Health Division in May 2017. It's been a tough 2.5 years at Eagle.
I'm a native of Michigan. I served 12 years of active duty and 17 years in the Guard, and I didn't like what was happening.
So the civil engineer applied for the job, hoping to make a change. Today, he can say Flint's drinking water has tested below the action levels of the federal lead and copper rule consistently for the past 3 years. The January to June sample shows a result of 3 parts per billion. Oswald says that's from the first liter of water out of the tap after it sat stagnant for 6 hours. For the state standards, the water tested at 6 parts per billion. That sample comes from the 5th liter out of the tap.
We think in most cases that 5th liter will hit what's in contact with the lead service lines.
A more accurate picture, Oswald says.
We certainly hope nothing ever happens like Flint again, but we're certainly better prepared. I think we've made a lot of good changes. We work a lot more closely with some of our partners now. So I think we're in a much better position.
They do not trust
anybody. No, and I completely understand that. Coming into this position, I understood that basically trust was lost. And the only thing we can do is be clear, be transparent, be honest, be forthcoming.
And another big change Oswald put in place, he is requiring all lead pipes across the state to be removed over the next 20 years.
All right, and so where does pipe replacement stand in the city of Flint? Well, since March of 2016, the Fast Start initiative has been inspecting and replacing lead and galvanized steel service lines. To date, over 23,000 lines have been explored and 9,300 replaced. The exact number of lines that needs to be replaced is still unknown, but according to the city's website, the current estimate is around 12,000. Pipe replacement has been done in 6 phases. The first phase targeted high-risk households in Flint, which included children under the age of 6, children with elevated blood lead levels, pregnant women, senior citizens, and homes with high lead water levels. Since then, 4 other phases have been completed. The 6th and final phase got underway back in April. Flint officials hope to have the project completely done by the end of this year. The entire process has been costly, and while the exact price tag is not clear, Flint has received a good chunk of money to make it possible. The Fast Start initiative was initially funded by $25 million from the state. Eventually, the federal government passed a bill providing roughly $100 million for infrastructure improvements. Finally, a civil lawsuit settled in April 2017 provided an additional $47 million in relief funding.
New at 6, we're learning 1 of 2 mid-Michigan nursing home patients infected with Legionella bacteria has died. We first told you last night at 11 that the bacteria was found in water samples taken from the Heartland Healthcare Center Fostorian in Flushing. Health officials are still trying to pinpoint a cause, but Michael, you spoke with people who are frustrated with how this whole situation is being handled.
Yeah, that's right, Angie. Lisa Wen says her father doesn't drink bottled water, so she knew something was strange when she saw it on her father's room in the nursing home, and that was on Monday. Today, a spokesperson tells me every resident will receive a formal letter explaining the situation, and after waiting days for an explanation, Wen says that's simply unacceptable.
The minute you find out something like that, I would think the first response is, let's get as many safety precautions in place, which would mean letting the residents know, letting the families know that this is happening.
The nursing home is cooperating with the Genesee County Health Department, hyperchlorinating the water system in the facility. All 104 residents are using bottled water until testing results return next week. The health department says most people don't develop Legionnaires Disease or develop symptoms when they're exposed to the bacteria, But if you feel pneumonia-like symptoms like shortness of breath, chest pains, fever, and confusion, you should contact your healthcare provider for proper testing. One resident was just discharged yesterday from the nursing home after an extended stay, but he still says he's concerned.
I wanted to go somewhere and heal. I didn't want to go somewhere that I might now be in more danger than I was when I went there.
The health department says they're still investigating, as they can't say at this point if Legionnaires' disease was the cause of the person's death or if it was fully associated with the nursing home since they weren't there the entire time that they were ill. We'll have more details as the story continues to develop. Angie?
All right, Michael, thank you. Now, Legionnaires' disease is on the rise nationwide. According to the CDC, infection rates have increased 5-fold over the last 20 or so years, but it's still unclear whether this reflects a true increase in the frequency of Legionella bacteria or better testing and reporting. However, some experts do point to our growing use of heating, ventilation, and cooling systems as a factor in that spike.
Happening now, a small bug posing a huge health risk. Michigan has seen a huge spike in the mosquito-borne virus, Eastern equine encephalitis. The first case was reported in August. Well, since then, we've had 33 animal cases, along with 9 human cases, 4 of which were deadly. The human cases are concentrated in the southwest part of Michigan, specifically Berry, Berrien, Calhoun, Cass, Kalamazoo, and Van Buren counties. But animal cases are spread all across the lower peninsula. Now, that is a huge increase when you compare it to years prior. According to the CDC, on average, there are only 7 cases of EEE in the U.S. each year. For some perspective, between 2009 and 2018, Michigan only had 7 cases total. So, who's at risk? Well, the CDC says people who work outside or play outdoor sports are most likely to get infected. Also, people over 50 and under 15 are at the greatest risk of developing the disease. So how can you protect yourself? Health officials say the best thing to do is stay inside from dusk until dawn. If you must be outside, wear long sleeve shirts and pants. Also, layer on the bug spray and make sure it has DEET. Now, even though we're starting to see fall temperatures, the risk of EEE, it's still there. The only thing that will shut mosquitoes down for the season is a hard freeze. And that's when the air temperature is below freezing for several consecutive hours. Typically here in Michigan, that happens sometime in mid-October. So, JR, is there any chance for a hard freeze in the next few days, or are we not there yet?
Not quite there yet. We will see temperatures in parts of mid-Michigan early Saturday morning dipping back into the 30s, but I think even then it will be above that freezing mark. So we might see the mosquito season linger a little bit more. Right now, some breaks in the overcast on our Flint sky cam. In general, though, it'll be a mostly cloudy setting as we head through the night. Still some showers showing up on first alert Doppler radar, mainly up in the northernmost parts of the state. And we are seeing those drifting from the northwest to the east-southeast, but underneath some of the thicker clouds that will be lingering around here overnight and even through our Friday morning. A couple of spits of rain or a bit of drizzle certainly not out of the question. In Flint right now, it is 65 degrees. That's with a west-northwesterly wind at 7. Right down Saginaw, we have a west-northwesterly wind at 15 with the temperature at 61 degrees. And it's never too early to look at the weekend forecast. I think we'll have a little bit of sunshine for both Saturday and Sunday. But I do think late Saturday night into very early Sunday morning, a few showers will be drifting through mid-Michigan. It's not going to be a big deal, should not cause any more problems than the rainfall we've already seen. In fact, for the next week, I don't think we are going to be looking at any widespread or heavy rains. We'll have your full forecast details coming up.
Feelings of frustration on day 18 of the GM UAW strike. The nearly 3-week-long impasse already costing the automaker a reported $1 billion. And there has been no update tonight on where the talks stand, but at least those on the picket line say they are in this for the long haul.
That's absolutely right, Angie. And I'll tell you, between the weather and the strike itself, these people have had a lot to contend with over the last 2.5+ weeks. And I've talked to many of the workers out here today, getting to know them a little bit more. For a lot of them, this is a family affair. They have history with GM. I'm joined now by Eric and Terry Miller. They are father and son. And Eric, you're a 5th generation GM worker.
Yes, I am.
How does it feel on day 18? How are you feeling?
Oh, pretty good. We figured if we're going on strike, it's going to be for a while. The issues are more important than my personal opinions on things. So I think we're doing all right.
Terry, you retired out of Buick City after working 41 years. What can you say about how these things tend to go?
Well, I think they're going to be here for the long term to start with. All the things that we fought for and struck for, GM has taken away from these people, and they're just trying to get it back. They're not out here for money. They're here to get our temporary workers, full-time employees, and get them a decent wage for them. The older workers aren't going to gain that much from it, but it's job security basically, and they have every right to be here, and I support them wholeheartedly.
All right, thank you, Terry. And do you feel like with the talks about Ford's negotiations with the UAW making significant progress, how does that bode for you at GM?
I think we're pretty close too. It's just a couple issues. They're worried about the temps. They don't want to give in on the temp situation, and we think it's something worth fighting for. So we're going to be here until we get what we need. And if Ford's getting what they need, that's fine.
All right. Well, Eric, Terry, thank you both so much. Again, we'll continue to follow the very latest as this story develops. For now, live in Burton, Elise Ramey, back to you.
While the GM UAW strike continues, hundreds of workers at Next Tier in Saginaw County are still off the job, but the community is making sure they're taken care of. More than 200 boxes of food were made available today at the local 699 Union Hall. People and companies have been donating money and supplies since layoffs started 2 weeks ago. Wanagas Credit Union was there today, donating money, handing out gift cards, and offering low-interest loans. A board member for the credit union, Lisa Wilson, is also one of the striking workers at GM.
So in addition to doing this, I'm also doing strike duty and helping with assisting the members with getting their paychecks at Local 659. So it's been pretty busy, a lot of sleepless days.
Given the opportunity to come down here and get food, feed the family, that's really great because I'm going on 2 weeks being laid off, maybe 3, who knows when we'll go back. So this helps out a lot.
It's believed that just under 1,000 Next Tier workers have been laid off because of the GM strike. As always, ABC12 is your trusted source for complete strike coverage. We will continue to bring you updates both on air and online as GM and the UAW try to hash out a deal. Also, head to ABC12.com for a look at all the stories we've covered over the last 18 days.
All new tonight, Mid-Michigan is mourning the loss of a man who served his community for decades. Bay County's former sheriff, John Miller, passed away last night following a short illness. Miller started out as a sheriff's deputy in 1974. He eventually became sheriff and served for 20 years. Before retiring in 2016, Miller was just 68 years old.
Covering Flint, Saginaw, and Bay City, you're watching ABC 12 News at 6 with Angie Hendershot, Matt Franklin, and Chief Meteorologist J.R. Kurtek. ABC 12 News, your trusted source.